I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. The first time I heard these words, they weren't from a dusty book or a classroom lecture. They echoed through the dim light of a cave, recited by the students of the Dead Poets Society. Inspired by their teacher John Keating, they gathered in secret to rebel against a world that had grown mechanical, soulless, and rigid. These words from Henry David Thoreau weren't just a quote, they were a ritual, a call to arms for anyone seeking to reclaim life's raw beauty. That scene hit me like a lightning bolt. I paused the film, letting the words sink in. Was I truly living or just existing? It's a question that haunts many of us, isn't it? In a world obsessed with productivity, performance, and perfection, how often do we stop to ask why? Why are we running so fast, and where are we even going? I remember looking out the window after that scene, my gaze drifting far beyond the glass. In the distance, I saw the forest, the one near the countryside house where I'd spent my childhood summers. I'd grown up with it always in the background, its trees towering silently, as if waiting. Yet, I'd never truly stepped into it. Not once had I wandered among its trails or listened to the wind dance through its branches. It was always there, so close, and yet I'd never really noticed it. That thought stayed with me, like a quiet ache. Why? As I sat there staring at that forest, a quiet thought began to take root. What would it mean to step away from the rush, from the noise, and truly live? To pause, to breathe, to notice what's been waiting all along. And then it hit me. Who the hell is this Thoreau they're quoting in the movie? His words had stirred something in me, but I had no idea who he was. A philosopher, a poet, a dreamer, or just another name I'd let pass by unnoticed, like so many things we take for granted in the rush of modern life. Always there, always waiting, yet somehow forgotten. That's when I discovered Henry David Thoreau. Born in 1817 in Concord, Massachusetts, Thoreau was a writer, philosopher, and naturalist. But above all, he was a man who dared to live differently. At a time when America was racing toward industrialization, building railroads through forests and erecting factories in meadows, Thoreau chose to step back. He asked a question that still resonates today. At what cost are we pursuing progress? To answer it, Thoreau made a bold decision. In 1845, he retreated to Walden Pond, where he built a small cabin and spent over 2 years living simply. His goal wasn't to escape life, but to confront it, to strip away distractions and see what truly mattered. The result of this experiment was Walden, a book that's more than a memoir. It's a manifesto for living deliberately, for questioning the status quo, and for finding beauty in simplicity. But for some, Thoreau might seem like a loser. After all, he rejected the rat race, built a cabin, and spent his days observing the quiet ripple of a pond. But pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what does it truly mean to be a loser? Is it someone who steps out of the race, or is it someone who blindly runs it, never questioning why? For the materialistic, the competitive, and the endlessly distracted, Thoreau might appear irrelevant. But for those who stop, who listen, who let his words sink in, Thoreau is far from a loser. He's a guide, a genius, a compass pointing us back to what really matters. So today, let's take a journey together, not to escape life, but to confront it, to strip it to its essentials. Through Walden, we'll uncover 5 lessons that can help us live deliberately, even in the chaos of the modern world. And who knows, by the end, you might find yourself redefining what it means to win or to lose. Lesson 1. Simplify your life to find clarity. Our life is frittered away by detail. Simplify, simplify. When Henry David Thoreau retreated to Walden Pond, his purpose wasn't to escape life, it was to live it more fully. In stripping away the clutter of 19th century industrialism, he sought to uncover life's essence. He believed that simplicity wasn't just a practical choice. It was a path to clarity, to freedom, to meaning. "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately," he wrote, and his deliberate life became a quiet revolution against a world that had grown too loud, too fast, and too disconnected. Thoreau understood that life's true beauty lies not in accumulation, but in essence. By reducing the noise, both external and internal, he created space for reflection, creativity, and deep connection with the world around him. Simplicity, for Thoreau, was a radical act of self-discovery. This wisdom feels even more urgent today. We live in an age where the noise has grown deafening. Beyond the emails, the notifications, and the endless to-do lists, there's something else pulling us away from clarity. FOMO, the fear of missing out. It's the nagging feeling that if we're not constantly connected, we're losing something. Opportunities, experiences, relevance. FOMO keeps us scrolling through feeds long after we're tired, overcommitting to obligations we don't care about, and chasing distractions instead of meaning. But here's the truth Thoreau teaches us. You're not missing anything that truly matters. The fear of missing out is an illusion, a product of a world that demands more. Simplicity, on the other hand, is about choosing less, but better. It's about focusing on what enriches your life and letting go of what doesn't. For example, actress Emma Watson has spoken about how Thoreau's Walden inspired her to rethink her approach to life. Known for her activism and her ability to balance a high-profile career with a thoughtful personal philosophy, Watson found in Thoreau's work a guide for simplifying, not just materially, but emotionally and spiritually. She described how letting go of distractions created space for creativity, connection, and a deeper sense of purpose. Watson's experience is a powerful reminder that simplicity isn't about deprivation. It's about liberation. It's about choosing what truly matters and letting go of the rest. So, how do you begin to simplify your own life? Start small. Take a moment to reflect. What's one thing, an object, a habit, or even a mindset that no longer serves you? Maybe it's the endless pull of social media, the weight of FOMO, an overcommitted schedule, or even a cluttered space. Let it go. Create space for something that brings clarity and joy. Simplifying isn't about sacrifice, it's about rediscovery. As Thoreau wrote, our life is frittered away by detail. Simplify, simplify. When we heed this call, we open the door to clarity and intention and to the next step on our journey. Lesson 2. Live intentionally and resist the herd mentality. I wish to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life. For Henry David Thoreau, living deliberately was an act of rebellion. In a world consumed by noise, distraction, and blind conformity, he sought to take back control. At Walden Pond, he stripped his life to its essentials, asking, "Why am I doing this? Who am I doing it for? Is this the life I want, or the one I've inherited?" Thoreau's retreat wasn't an escape. It was a choice to confront life on his own terms. He wanted to ensure that when his days came to an end, he wouldn't look back and discover he had never truly lived. To live deliberately was to live awake, to make every moment a conscious choice. But let's be honest, most of us can't retreat to a cabin in the woods. We have jobs, families, obligations. We live in a world that rarely gives us a moment to pause, let alone to rebuild our lives from scratch. So the question becomes, how can we live intentionally in a society that demands so much from us? How can we reclaim our freedom without leaving everything behind? The answer lies in how we approach the moments we already have. Living intentionally doesn't mean rejecting modern life. It means navigating it with purpose. It means finding clarity in the chaos, making choices that align with who we are, even amidst the noise. Start with small, deliberate acts. Each morning, before the demands of the day take over, pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what truly matters today? Maybe it's carving out time for a loved one. Maybe it's finding 10 quiet minutes to read or reflect. Maybe it's simply approaching your work with focus and presence. The point isn't to do less, but to do what you do with intention. As the day unfolds, keep that intention close. Notice the choices you're making. Are they yours, or are they shaped by the expectations of others? Living deliberately doesn't require perfection. It requires awareness. Awareness of the patterns that keep you stuck and the courage to break free from them. Thoreau also teaches us the power of saying no. No to commitments that drain you. No to distractions that pull you away from what matters. When you say no to what doesn't serve you, you're creating space for what does. This isn't about retreating from life. It's about choosing how you live it. And here's the truth. You don't need to live in a forest to live intentionally. You just need to reclaim the moments that are already yours. To walk through the noise of the world with purpose, not as part of the herd, but as the author of your own story. Are you living for yourself, or are you living for others? Thoreau's words challenge us to reflect, to reclaim, and to choose. The answer, if you're brave enough to find it, could change everything. Lesson 3, seek truth over validation. Rather than love, than money, than fame, give me truth. When Henry David Thoreau wrote these words, he was issuing a challenge, not just to his readers, but to himself. At Walden Pond, he set out to strip life to its essentials, rejecting the empty distractions of wealth, status, and approval. For Thoreau, truth wasn't a luxury. It was a necessity. It was the foundation of a life worth living. In Walden, Thoreau reflects on how easily people trade authenticity for acceptance. They chase comfort, admiration, and security, but in doing so, they lose something far greater, themselves. How vain it is to sit down to write when you have not stood up to live, he wrote, a sharp reminder that a life spent seeking validation is a life disconnected from its core. Now think about your own life. How often do your decisions hinge on what others might think? The way you dress, the things you say or don't say, the photos you share online. In the age of social media, validation feels like a currency, and it's easy to let it dictate our choices. We curate, we filter, we perform, chasing fleeting approval that never truly satisfies. But Thoreau challenges us to ask, am I living for myself or am I living for others? To seek truth over validation is to reject the performance. It's choosing to live authentically, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it means stepping away from the applause. Imagine for a moment letting go of the need for approval. Imagine sharing something raw and honest, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. Or imagine choosing silence, resisting the urge to share at all, and spending that time instead on what feels true to you. Here's the remarkable thing about seeking truth. As you begin to strip away the layers of external validation, you uncover a deeper silence, a stillness that hums beneath the noise of the world. It's the rhythm of nature, unchanging and eternal, patiently waiting to remind you of who you are and where you come from. For Thoreau, truth wasn't just a personal pursuit, it was something he found reflected in the natural world. In the ripples of Walden Pond, in the whispering trees, and in the turning of the seasons, he saw a kind of clarity that human society often obscures. Nature to him was more than a setting. It was a guide pulling him back to a simpler, truer way of being. And that pull you feel, that quiet call, it's nature drawing you back to where all truth begins. Lesson 4. Reconnect with nature to reconnect with yourself. Heaven is under our feet as well as over our heads. For Henry David Thoreau, nature wasn't just a place to visit. It was where life itself unfolded in its purest form. At Walden Pond, he didn't merely observe nature, he let it guide him, teach him, and remind him of truths too easily drowned out by the noise of society. In the stillness of the woods, he found clarity. In the mirrored surface of the pond, he saw simplicity. And in the turning of the seasons, he was reminded of the rhythm of life, unrushed, unbroken, and eternal. But today, most of us live far from that rhythm. We wake to the shrill sound of alarms, not birdsong. Our days are spent under fluorescent lights, not under the shifting sky. The hum of air conditioners and the distant roar of traffic have replaced the rustle of leaves and the call of distant owls. We live in towers that blot out the stars, and our connection to the natural world feels thinner than ever. This disconnection isn't just a loss of beauty, it's a loss of balance. Studies have shown that spending time in nature reduces stress, lowers blood pressure, and improves mental health. And yet, how often do we truly step away from the screens, the noise, the endless demands, and let ourselves simply be? Thoreau's time at Walden Pond was transformative, not because it was extraordinary, but because it was ordinary. He slowed down. He watched ripples on the water, listened to the rustling of leaves, and traced the path of the sun across the sky. These weren't trivial acts, they were profound. In noticing the details of the world around him, he found himself. How can we bring this wisdom into our busy, modern lives? Start small. Take 10 minutes to step outside, not to run an errand or rush to an appointment, but simply to be. Leave your phone behind. Feel the wind against your skin. Watch how the light shifts through the day. Listen, not to notifications, but to the quiet hum of life all around you. If you're feeling bold, go deeper. Take a walk in the woods, not to exercise, but to wander. Let your thoughts meander like a forest path. Or try something even more radical, a silent retreat. Imagine a few days stripped of all distractions, where the absence of words allows you to hear your own voice more clearly. A Vipassana meditation retreat, for instance, is an invitation to confront stillness, and in doing so, to rediscover yourself. And here's a simple shift you can make today. The next time you feel overwhelmed, resist the urge to scroll endlessly through your phone. Instead, watch the sunset. Step outside and let the evening air wrap around you. Nature doesn't just soothe the mind, it reconnects you with the part of yourself that the world so often asks you to forget. For Thoreau, nature wasn't just an escape, it was a return to simplicity, to presence, to truth. And as you reconnect with it, you may find that the anxieties of modern life, the deadlines, the notifications, the endless noise begin to fade. In their place, something quieter and more enduring begins to grow. A sense of calm, of belonging, of being truly alive. As you step back into nature, your priorities may shift. You might find yourself questioning what really matters, what success truly means. And in that reflection, you'll find the perfect lead-in to Thoreau's final lesson. Lesson 5. Redefine success on your own terms. What you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals. For Henry David Thoreau, success wasn't about trophies, titles, or the admiration of others. It wasn't about climbing higher or earning more. Success to him was something quieter, something deeper. It was about transformation, not in the eyes of the world, but within oneself. At Walden Pond, Thoreau didn't set out to achieve anything that society might recognize. There were no promotions to chase, no accolades to earn. And yet, his time there remains one of the most impactful success stories of all time, not because of what he accomplished, but because of who he became. In the stillness of nature, he found clarity. In the simplicity of his days, he found meaning. And in his reflections, he found himself. Now think about your own life. What does success look like to you? Is it climbing the corporate ladder, gaining recognition, earning more money? In today's world, success is often measured in external terms: titles, possessions, followers. We're taught to compare ourselves endlessly, scrolling through curated feeds that make us question if we're enough. But Thoreau invites us to ask a different question, not how much have I achieved, but who am I becoming? Success, he believed, isn't about accumulation, it's about transformation. And transformation can only happen when we align our lives with our values, not society's expectations. The pursuit of external success, he warned, often comes at the expense of the soul. True success is a journey inward, not upward. So how do we redefine success in a world that celebrates competition and comparison? It begins with stepping away from the noise and asking deeper questions. What truly brings me joy? What feels meaningful? What kind of person do I want to become? These questions cut through the clutter and bring you back to the essence of what really matters. Imagine this. Instead of chasing someone else's idea of success, you start writing your own definition. Maybe for you, success means spending more time with the people you love. Maybe it's about pursuing a passion that lights you up inside. Or maybe it's simply finding balance, living a life that feels whole, rather than one that looks impressive from the outside. Here's a simple exercise. Take a moment today, grab a notebook, and write down your version of success. Not society's version, not what others expect of you, yours. Let it be honest, let it be imperfect, let it be real. Because at the end of the day, the trophies will gather dust, the titles will fade, the applause will quiet. What remains is the person you've become in the process. And that, Thoreau teaches us, is the only kind of success worth striving for. As we reach the end of our journey, Thoreau's words remind us of something we often forget in our rush to keep up with the world. Life isn't a checklist. It's not about how much we achieve, how many followers we gain, or how busy we look. It's about depth, connection, and the quiet courage to live by your own values. But let's revisit the question we raised earlier. What does it mean to be a loser? Is it the person who chooses simplicity over status? Who steps away from the race to watch the ripples on a pond? Or is the real loser the one who spends their life chasing goals they didn't choose, trapped in an endless cycle of consumerism and comparison? Thoreau's life challenges us to redefine success. True winning isn't about trophies or titles, it's about living deliberately, aligning your actions with your values, and finding joy in the simplicity of existence. And if that makes him a loser in the eyes of the world, then maybe it's the world that needs a reality check. As for me, I think it's time to take my own advice. I'll close this laptop, step outside, and play the loser for a little while. Maybe I'll watch the light dance through the trees, or listen to the hum of life waiting to be noticed. Maybe I'll trip over a root, or stumble upon something profound. Either way, it'll be time well spent. But what about you? What step will you take today to live more deliberately? Maybe it's pausing to watch the sunset, saying no to a commitment that doesn't feel right, or writing down what truly brings you joy. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be yours. Because the real tragedy isn't losing the race. It's never daring to step off the track, slow down, step outside the race, and discover the beauty you've been too busy to notice. Wishing you courage, clarity, and the joy of slowing down. Until next time, here on Heroes' Journeys, where the real adventure is within.